Hi and welcome back to the channel. My name's gwEm and today I want to talk about a remix that I did for a friend of mine called 4ntler, and you'll be able to hear it on an upcoming release that he's doing. Now for the remix I used this thing, which is my pride and joy. It's an E-mu SP1200. Now this thing is kind of a classic sampling drum machine, and unfortunately they are now very expensive to buy, but I'm lucky enough to have one, and I like making music on it nearly as much as I like making music on my Atari. So let's just go through some of the features and how it works with all these other things over here. So first of all, I will play you the samples which the remix is composed of. So that bank of samples is Game Boy sounds from 4ntler's original track. And as you can probably tell, I've added reverb. If I turn off the reverb here, it sounds good. But to make it sound a little more pro, I did add some reverb. This mixer has two effects buses. One of them, the purple one, goes to the internal effects engine, and the green one goes to this unit here, which is an Aliasing nano verb, which I have set up for a chorus effect. Let's look at the second bank of samples. The first four are cut-ups of a breakbeat. And the last sound there is a bass sound which I sampled from a vintage Yamaha CS5 synth. Now the breakbeat sounds don't have much processing done to them. There's no reverb or chorus, but what they do have is the EQ messed around with. So I tried to bring out the mid-range of the snare and cut out some of the rumbly low end, because I've got a different rumbly low end that I wanted to include. Now bank C has these sounds. Just two, a major piano chord, which I sampled just from a piano module. It's nothing special. And then we have an acid line that I sampled from a rolling bit of kit. I wrote the actual acid line myself. Now, all these samples together use 8.1 seconds, and this whole unit is able to store 10 seconds of samples. Now, that may not seem very much when we're used to having computers with gigabytes of memory and you can do what you want, but believe me, 10 seconds is more than enough to make a really good track. Mostly this machine is used for boom bap hip hop, but you can use it for all kinds of things. I saw the happy hardcore producer Scott Brown used it to write a whole bunch of his tunes, and it was perfect for this rave remix that I did for 4ntler. Let's play the song, and I'll go through it section by section. So the intro is really just the bass sound. with some of the Game Boy bleeps. And I thought they sounded quite atmospheric together. You'll notice there's only one bass note, but the SP1200 has ability to allow you to play that note at different pitches. So it's called multi-pitch. And when it is selected, you have a major chord here then, which you can adjust the tuning of. So I was able to use that to make the correct scale to fit in with the Game Boy sounds. Let's play now the next section of the track. Again, we only have one piano chord sample, but with the multi-pitch abilities, you can play in melodies. Sounds rather good. Now I only sampled one chord, which was A major, but this is one of the things that give it that rave sound. So some people call them parallel chords, because normally in a scale, when you play chords at the different pitches in the scale, you would alternate between major and minor. But I only have one piano sound here, so parts of it don't fit in with this scale of the track, but it gives it this kind of cool character, which is used all over rave tunes from the 90s, and I love all that sort of thing. Let's go on to the next section. So that's the breakbeat with the bass and the acid. Those are the 4 breakbeat samples, but you don't just have to play them straight. You probably recognize the breakbeat. But you can play the sections of the breakbeat in a different order to make a more interesting sounding rhythm. Something like that. And that's a technique that I explained in my last maximizer video. Let's play the next segment. This features my favourite part of 4ntler's original track, which was the first section of the track of his that I sampled into this thing. It's a wave channel of a Game Boy, and it sounds soft but kind of lo-fi at the same time. Really cool sound. There's the intro again. There was the breakdown, which comes at the end of the track. So I wanted to do a part of the track which kind of went to town a bit with the piano chords and really kind of get that rave flavour. So the whole song is in A minor, but it was an A major chord that I sampled. So you've got this interesting contrast of minor and major, and it's, you know, hands in the air, rave basically at that point. With the breakbeat on that section, I did a different cut up and tried to make it a bit more wild sounding. That section of the track also doesn't have any of the original Antler samples in. So there I reintroduced the main Antler riff. And that is the outro. Just one note, just to finish the track off there. So let's talk a bit more about the SP1200. So it has only, I think it's 0.5 megabyte of RAM, I'm not sure. It's between 0.5 megabyte and 700K of RAM. The samples are stored in 12-bit format, but if you actually listen to the difference between 12-bit and 16-bit, they sound very close to each other. 12-bit will give you very good sample quality, particularly if you compare it to, you know, the 8-bit that I use on the Atari, or that you might use on Amiga, for example. What really makes the difference with the SP1200 is the aliasing algorithm that it has, sorry, the resampling algorithm it has, which gives aliasing. So I will demonstrate that to you now. Let's take the original Antler bassline section. Now that's how it was originally. It's a very clean Game Boy sample. This machine has a 25 kilohertz sample rate, so it's fairly high. You can see here some of the top end's been rolled off, but it sounds quite close to the original. Now as we detune it, it gets crunchier and crunchier. Let's show that on another sound. There's that piano chord again. You can hear the top end, there's what we call aliasing. That's half of the original pitch of the sample. You can tell because the artifacts in the high end have gone. You can hear them very clearly on that one. And some people say that this gives you the kind of magical SP1200 sound, and I agree with those people who say that. But it sounds very punchy anyway. French house producers love that kind of artifacty replay of the samples. But the other thing which I think is really cool about the SP1200 is that it has 8 individual outputs. So this thing has 8 tracks stored, can replay 8 tracks, but you have a separate output for each. So you can just run it mono out. That's what this green lead here is. But the beauty is you can have each track coming out of it separately. So when you put it into the mixer, you can EQ and apply different effects on each of the tracks. So for example, you might take some bass out of the beat, you might tweak the high end of the piano, adjust the mid-range to bring out the snare, that kind of thing. Then you can add reverb individually on each track. So this mixer has the built-in reverb effect, so I can use that effects bus to add reverb. And then some of the synths, I like to add a bit of chorus to give a stereo effect, which is done with this nano verb here. You can also pan each of the channels, so I have the piano pan to the left, some of the Game Boy is pan to the right. The last step in the chain is this compressor here. It is a FMR Audio, really nice leveling amplifier. Now normally for this kind of tune I would prefer to use the FMR Audio really nice compressor or the Aliasing Nano compressor, which I've used in a bunch of videos. I just happened to have this one plugged in for another project I was working on. I just thought it sounded quite good on the track. The difference between the leveling amplifier and the compressor is that this is more slower acting and sounds slightly more natural. With the really nice compressor you can get a pumping techno sound, which obviously is a good thing. This one is quite nice if you've got like a rolling break beat or you're doing some hip hop or something. I find that this sounds a little bit different and it's nice to have that option, but if you were only going to get one of those I would get the really nice compressor. But this is a good alternative, the leveling amplifier. So I'll play the song and I'll enable and disable the compressor. You can hear when I bypass the compressor, the track loses a whole heap of punch. And there are more volume spikes as well. That's without the compressor. And that's with the compressor. When you look at the VU meters, you can see that the actual volume with and without the compressor is just the same. But it appears louder with the compressor and it sounds more punchy and dancey. So that is an explanation of my 4ntler remix. I deliberately haven't played you the track in its kind of uncut up form to force you to go and check out his album and my remix which is on it. I really like this box, the SP1200, and I will do some more videos with it. Thanks, take it easy. Consider subscribing to my channel, that would be great. I'd love to one day reach 1,000 subscribers or something like that. And maybe if you don't want to do that, you could like the video if you've got this far. Thanks a lot and take care.